Welcome back to DaBoot Tragedies. It's been a lot of noise around the Saints quarterback situation as of late. Andy Dalton has taken over the reins while Jameis Winston has been out nursing that back injury with the 3 fractures, also that ankle injury. But it seems like Jameis Winston is finally getting healthy, turning the corner on the injury front, and he was back at practice. So we're going to talk about who should be starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints this upcoming week against the Bengals, and also who should be starting for the entirety of the season. I think most people will agree that Andy Dalton should be starting against the Bengals this upcoming Sunday, just because if Jameis Winston is finally back at practice, it is way too early to throw him back in there into the fire coming off. I mean, that's pretty tough injuries with fractures in your back and an ankle injury. To throw him in there with only 1 or 2 days of practice, you're just not putting him in the best position. You're not putting his team in the best position to be successful. So I think everyone, for the most part, 90% or more, may agree that Andy Dalton should definitely start this game against the Bengals. Obviously, still use that Taysom package. No matter who the quarterback is, that Taysom package still needs to remain, the same 8 to 10 plays that he's honestly earned. So we have to keep that, into consideration when we're thinking about the quarterback. Also, Andy Dalton should play this game, man. He's played well the 2 games he's been out there for the Saints. He hasn't won us any games, but he hasn't lost us any games. He's been a good game manager, throwing to his weapons, getting guys involved. He's turned the ball over a couple times, but he has to correct those things if you want to play, man. That's going to be the big thing. If you and Jameis Winston are going to turn the ball over the same amount of times, then you're going to have to play Jameis Winston. He has the bigger arm. He can make more plays. But if Andy Dalton can come in and not turn the ball over, that's going to, give him an advantage over Jameis Winston, who has been turning the ball over and throughout his career. But honestly, I mean, this first game against the Bengals, that's not really a major issue, because I think Andy Dalton is going to start that game. Now, after that game is over, this is going to be Dennis Allen's first big decision, I believe, as in playing time, not as like free agency and stuff like that, but as in depth chart decisions, during the season. This is going to be his first time having to make a choice. If the Saints go out there and beat the Bengals and Andy Dalton just plays okay, he plays good, he plays average, or whatever you want to call it, and the Saints win, it's going to be hard to pull him and insert Jameis Winston back in there. Now, if Andy Dalton plays awful, the Saints lose, or even the Saints winning, and he plays awful, you can put Jameis Winston back in there. So I think a lot's going to be riding on this game. Dennis Allen's going to have a decision to make. If Andy Dalton's playing well, the team's on a 2-game win streak. You got a tough part of your schedule coming back, so it's going to be a tough decision, and it's also a big decision. It's not like you're picking between James Hurst and Trevor Penning, or like last year Pete Warner and Quan Alexander. It's the quarterback position, the most important position on the football field, the position that you have to get right. For you to be a contender in this league, if you have a shot at anything in this league, you have to get the quarterback position right. So choosing between Andy Dalton and Jameis Winston, that's going to be a big one. I've seen a lot of people that said Taysom should play quarterback, and he's not just a gadget player. We've seen that. We've seen enough. You don't want Taysom playing quarterback because he does so much, other things for the team. So we can just kind of throw that out the window just because no one wants to see Taysom play quarterback, because you take away, that running ability. You're not going to run your starting quarterback 15 times a game. It just doesn't make any sense. Now, personally, I guess we can just go ahead with my opinion right here. I'm not just going to, straddle the fence and play both sides of the fence on this. I'll actually choose a quarterback that I think the Saints should go with. And my answer is kind of simple, man. You play Andy Dalton against this Bengals team. Hopefully we get more weapons back. Hopefully we can get Jarvis out there. MT's probably not going to play. So if he can come, with 90% of the weapons, let's see what he looks like. Let's see what he looks like with almost a full team back there. And if he plays well, you keep him in there. You keep Andy Dalton in there until he loses. That's just my opinion. And then you reassess after that. But what you don't want to do is you don't want to put Jameis Winston out there this week. Give him 2 weeks. He plays bad. Then you go back to Andy Dalton. You give him a week. Then you play Jameis Winston. You do not want to play quarterback carousel. Give Jameis Winston another week to get healthy. Let, Andy Dalton ride this out. Ride it out. If the team could get hot, the team gets hot, and then it is what it is. We got to stop pretending that Jameis Winston is some Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Josh Allen type quarterback. I know a lot of Saints fans are in love with Jameis. I like Jameis too, but let's stop pretending that he's the greatest thing since sliced bread. He's an average quarterback with elite arm talent. That's what he is. It's just a fact. It's no matter how you slice it, an average quarterback, but he has elite arm talent, one of the most talented, players to throw the ball in the league right now. He's that good when it comes to arm talent, but doesn't matter if your arm talent's not there if you don't have everything else to go along with it. Because if you ask me in a vacuum who's better, Andy Dalton or Jameis Winston, it's a no-brainer. Jameis Winston's by far better than, Andy Dalton, more talented than Andy Dalton, but does that translate, to the football games? We're watching Cooper Rush win games with the Cowboys. They're playing good defense. They're running the ball. He's throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb. Like, it can all be so simple. You don't need the greatest quarterback of all time if they can manage the game, if you have a good team around him. I do think we have that. Andy Dalton can make some throws. Now, he's not just a bum out there. I'm not saying Andy Dalton's washed by any means just because I said Jameis Winston's better. But at the end of the day, man, we need the quarterback that's going to give us the best chance to win. I think as of now, that's Andy Dalton. Just because Jameis Winston's coming off those injuries, man. He's coming off the ACL too. You got to throw that into consideration as well. He's coming off the ACL. He's coming off broken, bones by his spine, and he's coming off a pretty good ankle injury. You don't want to throw that man back out there. If Jameis Winston run ability is not, a part of, him, then I don't want him out there because he's going to have to be able to scramble. That's a big part of his game, or last year was, man, getting those first downs on third down, extending plays. That's what he's good at. If he's not bringing that to the table, then that just loses a part of the quarterback, that you don't want to lose. I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson or anything like that, but if Lamar Jackson couldn't run the ball no more, then he wouldn't be a very good quarterback. A lot of his, attributes come from his ability to run. Josh Allen's the same way. A lot of other quarterbacks are the same way. Jameis Winston, run ability was a big thing for him, and if he's hurt and he's scared to do it, then he shouldn't be out there. I know this one's going to spark so much debate. I mean, it's the quarterback position. It's the most loved position, the most hated position, so I get it. But like I said, I'm only going with Andy Dalton for at least one more week. Then we reassess from there, man. You see how he plays against the Bengals. I don't think he had the greatest game against Seattle. But he did play okay. We ran the ball very, very well. He did throw that one pick. Should have put the ball outside. He put it inside, but he also threw it to Traquan Smith, and we just know how that's going to end up every time you throw to Traquan Smith. No offense, because Traquan has actually been playing well, man. He's been blocking well. It is what it is. But some small pros and cons, man, I see with him. I think Andy Dalton throws the check down better than Jameis Winston. That might sound crazy. Oh, he throws the check down better. Who cares? But man, when you have Alvin Kamara and those tight ends checking down like Jawan Johnson, you have to get those guys the ball in space, especially when they're easy throws. Jameis Winston has struggled with those throws since he's been a Saint, and he just has to be better if he wants to play quarterback for us. Obviously, Jameis Winston has more big play ability. Obviously, you have Chris Olave. Deontay Hardy's hurt right now. Rashid Shaheed's going to get a chance to play. I'll do definitely a whole new video on him a little later. But you're going to have guys that can, run downfield, and Jameis Winston give us the best chance to stretch the football downfield. Turnovers, I don't know right now. Andy Dalton's turned the ball over. He's fumbled. He's thrown an interception. So I don't know who gives us the best chance, holding on to the ball. I think Andy Dalton is better at, picking up pass protection. He's seen a lot. He's been in the league longer. He started for a longer time than Jameis Winston. So he's seen basically everything. You're not going to confuse him. I think Jameis Winston, especially with McCoy, Ruiz still being young on the offensive line, all of those guys struggle, with the protections and things like that. I think Andy Dalton gives you a better, sense of protection, getting those guys, getting those guys lined up and stuff. So, I mean, it's pros and cons with both. It's basically, what do you think the team needs at that moment? I would love to see Andy Dalton with a Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, Marquez Callaway, Chris Olave, Troutman, Taysom and everybody, Kamara, all those weapons. We haven't seen that yet from him. I would love to see how that looks. So if he can, hold this for 2 more weeks, and let's give him a 2-week grace period to see how he looks with all the weapons. And he looks great. Hey, let's ride it out until we can't ride it out no more. And if he looks terrible, put Jameis Winston in there. No harm, no foul. But man, we just have to make this decision right. You can't mess this up. Dennis Allen, it's going to be a big decision for him. I know I would ask y'all to let me know who y'all think should start, but y'all are going to do that anyway in the comments below. Hey, man, thank y'all for tuning in once again. As always, this is DaBoot Tragedies, and I'm out.